Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being a viewer and subscriber. I'm going to dig deeper into some of the comments made by important senators, Republicans and Democrats, and in this video, an independent, Angus King, about how they came together and about some really important comments that Rob Portman, the senator from Ohio, made. He said some really important things about the need to help those who need it the most and about liability protection. In fact, he explained it better, honestly, than I've seen anyone else explain it. And I do think you should watch this video all the way through to the end to really understand why the Republicans want liability protection. Whether you agree with it or not, that's your decision. But he does an excellent job outlining why liability protection is so important for us to actually recover from this. So make sure, again, you watch this video all the way through to the end. First, let's take a look at Jeanne Shaheen, who's a Democrat. She's a senator from New Hampshire, and she said some important things. She said the American people are tired of partisanship, and I agree with her 100%. And she said this work product attests to that. It's interesting that all of these senators refer to this piece of legislation, I should say two pieces of legislation, because you see two stacks of paper. The big thick stack of paper on the right hand side is a $740+ billion bill that deals with unemployment insurance and all the other things that inject direct stimulus into the economy. And the bill on the left side is the one focusing on state and local funding, which, by the way, if you look at some of my earlier videos, you'll see some important comments from Mitt Romney from Utah addressing state and local funding, as well as Bill Cassidy from Louisiana addressing state and local funding. So I thought that was very important. But again, Rob Portman does an excellent job outlining the importance of liability protection, which is that small stack of papers that you'll see on the left side of your screen as these senators are talking. Let's take a look at Jeanne Shaheen, who said that essentially the American people are tired of partisanship and it's important to come together. Let's roll the tape and look at what Jeanne Shaheen had to say.
Are particularly focused on the restaurant industry and hospitality, which has been hurt so much by this pandemic, as well as venues, which have been closed, and many of them have not had a chance to get help. So we came together, we said we've got to do something, and this package is a response. It's not the bill that each of us would have written, for sure, but like all good legislation, it is a compromise. The other aspect about it that I think is so remarkable is what has been alluded to by so many of the people who have spoken, and I think all of us feel this way. What we've heard loud and clear from the American people is that they're tired of the partisanship. They want to see us in Congress work together to address the needs of this country, particularly now in the middle of this pandemic. And that's what all of this work and this work product attests to. Now, hopefully the leadership in both the House and Senate and in the administration will take what we have done, we'll vote on it, and we will provide relief to the people who need it as we're going into the cold winter months, as we're looking at a new administration coming in, as we're talking about what we need to do long term to provide stimulus to the economy. This is the relief that will help people to get to that point.
In the next segment, we'll take a look at Angus King, who's an independent from Maine. He said this is a unanimous bill. It is a consensus product that can be voted on the floor of the Senate tomorrow. Essentially, he said the work has already been done. Leadership should take this bill. Essentially, he's referring to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Leadership should take this bill and vote on it. So there's Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Hopefully you're listening, Senate Leader. Angus King says, I quote, this is a unanimous product. It is a consensus product. It is a unanimous bill that can be voted on the floor of the Senate as early as tomorrow. Let's take a look at Angus King, independent from Maine.
I once said to Susan, you think of me as 2/3 of a Democrat, don't you? And she said, no, it's actually more like 3/4. That's a long bit of history. I think just first a couple of process things that perhaps haven't come through entirely clearly. This bill, this $748 billion bill, is unanimous. It has the support of all of us, and I think that's very important. It's a consensus product to deal with the true emergency associated with this pandemic at this moment in time. And I think that's important. The other piece involving state and local aid and liability, we couldn't come to a uniform consensus, although there is still work going on in that area. So I think that's important. A second kind of process piece that may not be obvious is we're not handing the Senate leadership a concept draft. We're not handing them an outline. We're handing them a bill. This could go on the floor of the Senate tomorrow. It is in legislative language. It's been through legislative council. So we've taken a lot of the work out of this for them and hope that this will be the basis of the package that emerges at the end of the week. Now, there were two areas that I worked on in particular, actually three, but two in particular were addiction and mental health and broadband. Addiction and mental health, we are going through an epidemic not only of coronavirus, but of isolation, suicide, and depression. And that is going hand in hand with the elements of this terrible virus that is afflicting us. So there's a significant portion of this bill that deals with not only opioids, but methamphetamines, alcohol, other substances which are prone to abuse, but also mental health centers across the country, a very important part of the bill. Broadband is here because if there's anything we've learned from this pandemic, among many other lessons, is that we need to be connected. Seniors need to be able to do telehealth. Students need to be able to connect with their schools. And there are huge gaps in this country in terms of connectivity, particularly in rural areas, in places like my state of Maine. So there's a significant portion of this bill that directly addresses that in terms of emergency of connectivity over the next several months, but also in terms of developing the infrastructure to make those kind of connections important. The third piece that I worked on intensely was liability. And I realized today that I've gotten more texts from Rob Portman in the last week than from my 20-something daughter. And that sort of puts in perspective how hard we've been working. Rob and I have worked intensively. We've shared proposals back and forth. We couldn't quite get to the conclusion. And I want to make it clear. Everybody here, including myself, is concerned about the threat of lawsuits and what could happen to businesses, to hospitals, to doctors in a situation of unfettered litigation. On the other hand, there's a concern because when you talk about lawsuits and litigation, you're also talking about injured people. And you're talking about people who have a right to be heard and have a right to compensation if they were wrongly injured. And so what we've tried to do is to balance those two interests. We couldn't quite make it. The House is continuing to work on it. I'm optimistic that they may be able to find the solution. Rob and I will continue to work on it, and it may be that by the end of the week we'll be able to merge these two bills, because I'm a huge advocate for state and local aid, but the sort of agreement going in was that those two issues were related and they were going to go either together or separately. So that's the status of that discussion. But the final thing I want to say is I hope in the not-too-distant future, when a group of bipartisan senators calls a press conference to talk about how they've been working together to solve an important problem, nobody comes. By that I mean, this should be the way it always works. This shouldn't be so unusual as to bring all of you here. I want this to be routine. All of us have commented to one another that this has been one of the most difficult, but also one of the most rewarding legislating experiences that we've had in this body. Sitting down, arguing, differing, issuing our statements, working with our staffs to try to get our points in order, to do the work that made it. This is the way it's supposed to work. So my hope is that we're going to have so much bipartisanship that it will become routine and will be the way that we routinely do business. And I think that's something that the American people will deeply appreciate. I know it's something that they seek. This is a Christmas gift to the American people, and I sincerely hope that our colleagues in the Senate and the House and the White House will seize upon it, execute the work that's necessary to finalize the package, and I look forward to seeing the help that we've offered go out to the American people.
In the third segment, and by the way, this is a longer segment, so just hang in there and listen carefully to what Rob Portman from Ohio says. He actually said that he lost people to COVID, people he knew personally to COVID. He said it was personal for him, and he said some sectors are really struggling. I mentioned this before on my channel. Individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality are struggling. While our senators argue over state and local funding and they argue over liability protection, we need money to put food on the table. We need to keep the lights on. We need to be able to essentially pay rent. I mean, this is unbelievable. And some sectors have been significantly impacted. This is a K-shaped recovery. Individuals at the top of the K are already doing fine. They can work remotely. Individuals at the bottom of the K have in many cases lost their jobs permanently. And then Rob Portman explains about the importance of liability protection at length. He talks about businesses that are scared to reopen. He talks about a small mom and pop store that, if you tell a customer to wear a mask, could you get sued? And this is an actual real concern. Now, I want my viewers and subscribers to know, I have friends from all over the country. I have friends who are deeply Republican. I have friends who are deeply Democrat. I have heard from many people that many businesses are scared to open because of the concern about frivolous lawsuits. But I think that Rob Portman does a good job explaining that, the idea is to avoid frivolous lawsuits, but not to be able to provide some sort of a shield to bad actors. Let's roll the tape, and I want you to listen carefully to this it's a longer segment, to this rather long segment with Rob Portman, and let me know what you think towards the end of the segment. Let's roll the tape with Rob Portman, Senator from Ohio.
Angus, thank you. I think Angus, as an independent, understated the importance of this moment. This is not just bipartisan, it's tripartisan. So we're glad you're with us. Let me just say, I'm told by my staff now, given 20 floor speeches urging our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and specifically our leadership, to produce another COVID-19 bill. Why? Because it's desperately needed. The last big one was the CARES package. That was in March. That was over 9 months ago. Think about that. Think what's happened since. So some of you have had to listen to those speeches. Actually, very few of you probably did. But the point I kept making was there's a lot of common ground here. Yeah, we've got some differences. But look at this. It required these individuals behind us to find that common ground. It wasn't easy, but it was there. There are a couple of things we're still working on. But I think this is a tremendous step forward, and it's needed. Every day in Ohio now, we have another 10,000 plus people who are being infected. We're in our third wave, and it's bad. It's really bad. I just lost my third friend to COVID. He died in the hospital after a painful process of being in the ICU and going through with his family the grief and the pain. All of us have these experiences. This is personal. And the healthcare crisis has been accompanied by an impact on the economy. Some of my colleagues say, well, the economy is better. Why do we need to do this? Folks, I got to tell you, the economy is not getting better in most of our states. It's hurting. And particularly, even though some sectors are doing well, other sectors are really struggling. It was mentioned today, the small businesses in the hospitality area, the restaurants, the movie theaters, the bowling alleys, the bus companies, travel, entertainment. I mean, they are really hurting. The stages. Some are hanging by a thread. Some have already closed. And in Ohio, some of those will never open. Never. They're done. So this is the crisis that we face. And I appreciate working with Angus on the addiction and mental health issues because, unfortunately, we have a pandemic within a pandemic within a pandemic. And as some of you know, I've worked a lot on this issue of the opioid side of this, and we were finally making progress. And now we're going to have the worst year ever this year in the history of our country in terms of the number of people who die from an overdose. It will be the worst year ever. After we finally made progress, 20 years of this, and we were turning the corner. We had a 22% reduction in overdose deaths in Ohio just a couple years ago. Now we're back. It's the isolation, it's the despair, it's the joblessness. There are other factors too, not being able to go in and get your health care, to meet with your recovery coach. And we all know about the suicide rates and the behavioral health issues. So I appreciate working on that, and we provide some help. I appreciate the work on the unemployment insurance. This is one that's actually quite controversial, and yet this group was able to come together. And for my constituents back home who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own, this is what they're asking me about. Are the self-employed going to be able to continue to get UI? If we don't act, the day after Christmas, they lose it. If we don't act, the day after Christmas, those individuals who are on extended federal benefits lose it. They actually lose it. So not only do we add the $300 back in, which, as you know, we had until late summer, till August, but we also ensure that we are continuing the assistance that's already there. Again, I wish the economy were getting better all over the place. Everybody was back to work. Everything was great. That's not what I see. It's not what I feel. It's not what my colleagues hear. So that's all in here. And I appreciate working again with my colleagues on that. In terms of liability, I think Mitt Romney said it well. There is a bill that John Cornyn drafted that's carefully thought out, and it is the bill that most Republicans are supporting. And it's one that our Republican leadership supports. And it was the basis for we Republicans to say, this is the general approach that we like. We have a lot of concern in our caucus about state and local funding, in part because of some of the numbers, frankly, particularly with regard to the states. So we need to have a balance here. And that was part of the deal going into these discussions. We didn't quite get there, although, thanks to Joe Manchin, it's bipartisan. It's not tripartisan yet. Where's Angus? That's the goal. So all the Republicans are supporting this, and Joe Manchin is, and I appreciate that. But folks, we narrowed the differences considerably. I feel badly for John Cornyn's bill because it doesn't look like John Cornyn's bill anymore. I'll just be honest with you. You'll see about half the provisions are either gone or they have been changed because we listened to all of my Democratic colleagues back here, and we tried to come up with accommodations. We didn't get there, but we got awfully close. And in the House, we're continuing those discussions. But just to be clear what this is about that business, which is a grocery store in Pennsylvania, that has said to its employees and its customers, you got to wear a mask. And they're getting sued. They're not part of a big chain. And they're thinking, I'm getting sued because I'm telling people what I think was the best thing to do. The standards were evolving, right? This is a national emergency, and the standards have been all over the place. So what in good faith should a business do? Or a small nonprofit, like a small nursing home. A private nursing home or a nonprofit nursing home in all of our states, they're all scared to death. They're not quite sure what the standards were and what they should do. They don't want to get the lawsuit because they can't even fight the lawsuit. They might think they could win the judgment in the end, but they can't afford the 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, I'm looking at my states, $80,000 it's going to cost to actually defend themselves. A lot of these businesses are hanging by a thread. So that's the idea here. It's not to let bad actors off. It really isn't. If you're a bad actor, you should be held liable. It's to say to the people who, in good faith, tried to follow the rules as best they could tell. And by the way, the rules are evolving even as we talk. So that protection, I don't think my Democratic colleagues disagree there's protection needed. Angus just said that. But I do think that we have got to figure out a way to get to yes. There was a survey done, and admittedly this was by the Chamber of Commerce, so I don't know if it's a survey that my Democratic colleagues would support, but it said to people, what do you think? Should people be subject to lawsuits unless they are grossly negligent? And according to this survey, 79% of the American people said no, they should not be. If they in good faith tried to follow the rules. Now, if they're grossly negligent, they shouldn't be protected. That's what this bill tries to do. So that's what this is all about. And there are companies being sued around the country. And unfortunately, not every state has put standards in. Some have, some haven't. But only 15 states have done anything with regard to business liability, as an example. So our idea is do this temporarily. It only lasts 1 year from the date of enactment, which was different than the Cornyn bill, which is 4 years from the date of enactment, or until the health emergency, the national emergency, ends. It's short term. It's an emergency response. It's to ensure that we indeed can not just reopen this economy and ensure that our hospitals and our nursing homes are doing their best to try to provide the care they need without worrying about frivolous lawsuits, but also so they can stay open. So it's all tied into the economic crisis that we face on top of the healthcare crisis. My hope is that we can make progress. My hope is that before we go home for the holidays, we'll be up here again talking about progress on all these issues. But I will speak for all of my colleagues, I think, in saying we cannot leave, we cannot adjourn without passing a COVID-19 emergency bill for the people we represent.
And in the final segment, let's take a look at Maggie Hassan, who's a Democrat from New Hampshire. And Maggie Hassan outlined the assistance to schools and educators and the importance of addressing learning gaps. You can see how all these Republicans and Democrats came together. Let's take a look at what Hassan had to say.
What you've just heard, the description of ongoing conversations, Zooms, texts, emails, is an accurate one. And the agreement reflected in this stack of paper here is an extraordinary amount of work in a short amount of time. But of course, it is nothing in comparison to what our constituents are dealing with and how hard they are working to keep their families, their communities, their businesses afloat and to keep their eyes on the future on this day when we are seeing the first vaccines in our country distributed. I want to talk about a couple of things that haven't been mentioned. While there is still work to be done on this joint package on liability protections and state, local, and tribal aid, there is also, though, agreement, and it is reflected in the $748 billion bill on aid to our schools and our colleges, and that reflects $82 billion worth of education funding, the majority of it going to our public schools K through 12, also some money going for higher education, both the institutions and the most in-need students, as well as a similar fund that you saw in the CARES Act to governors to give them some flexibility to help schools with COVID-related expenses. We have been hearing loudly and clearly from our educators about the challenges that they have not only now, either doing remote learning, in-person learning, or a mixture of the two, but we know that they are anticipating a reopening of schools where our children will not only have some learning gaps or lags to address, but some social and emotional issues to address as well. The challenges for America's schools moving forward are going to be considerable. They also represent opportunity for us to come together and recommit ourselves to our nation's children. But it's critically important that we address that now, and I'm pleased and so grateful to all of my colleagues for working on this with us. Senator Cassidy and I were dealing on the education funding, and as Senator Portman described, we also worked on the unemployment issue, and the whole group on state and local really worked very hard on the formulas that you see. I do want to just say on the liability issue, Democrats are concerned too. about the very instances and examples that Senator Portman laid out. I think the differences we're trying to work through is that as we read the language, it just seems to go beyond the COVID situation and address some things that really have a broader impact and don't deal with COVID. So we just have to work this through.
So there you have it, everybody. You saw comments from several Republican and Democratic senators who have come together to help us get past the finish line, make some trade-offs, make some concessions, split things up, reach a compromise, and get past the finish line. This is how Washington is supposed to be. This is how government is supposed to be. But I want to be clear, it is unfortunate that there are no stimulus checks, but at least there is some element of cooperation, because there was no element of cooperation over the past 6 months. Here's a tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein. This just came up as we were wrapping up this video. And Jeff says that a lot is going on, but the biggest stimulus development of the day is that the second most senior Democrats, these are Democrats other than House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, there's Steny Hoyer, there are many other senior Democrats in both the House and the Senate, are now open to supporting a stimulus relief package, even if it does not have state and local aid. Now, this all comes down to one person. Ta-da! Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. If he brings the latest bill, the bill that I've analyzed, that I've dissected extensively on our channel with the past few videos you've seen on our channel, if the Senate Majority Leader decides to bring this to the floor of the Senate for a vote, I do believe that this will go to the president's desk for signing. Now, speaking of the president, just as we were wrapping up this video, President-elect Joe Biden is addressing the nation, and you see this tweet on your screen from President-elect Joe Biden. It's official, folks. Tune in as I deliver remarks on today's Electoral College vote certification and the strength and the resilience of our democracy. And by the way, he's speaking right now at the time I'm recording this video. If you want me to analyze and dissect what President-elect Joe Biden is saying, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. But there you have it on your screen. President-elect Joe Biden addressing the nation after he officially crossed 270 Electoral College votes. In fact, he's well over 300 because Hawaii has also certified their Electoral College results. They were the last to certify today. So it is official, President-elect Biden. And like I said, on your screen, you'll see him addressing the nation as we speak. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comment section below. Also, you'll find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. So that's it, everybody. My team and I decided to put together this detailed video series today outlining the behind the scenes efforts, the thoughts, the emotions, the actions of Republican senators as well as Democratic senators as they put together this I call it the end game stimulus bill. I believe this is the final stimulus bill that we will see before the Christmas holiday. I am cautiously optimistic that the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says, yes, let's vote on this. And if he decides to do that, I believe this could get signed into law as early as this week, before all our lawmakers go on their Christmas break. And is this something that is going to give everything to everybody? No, it doesn't include stimulus checks. To be honest, I don't think it's a great bill because it does not include stimulus checks, but this is what we have right now, and I believe this has the best chance of going forward. A lot depends on the reaction from the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, which I will cover on our channel as soon as that information becomes available. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications so you get instant updates from our channel going forward. I appreciate you. I'll be talking to you soon. That's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. That's 2 p.m. So please make sure you click like, you subscribe, you enable notifications so you get instant updates about our videos. You'll also get notified whenever we do any live streams. So make sure you please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. That's your vote of confidence in us, and that really helps out the YouTube algorithm. I would really appreciate that. Just gently tap that like button. Don't ignite it, and don't smash your screen. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that because, I want you to be able to watch our videos. But the name of our channel is Ignition Time. Now, keep in mind, you can get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000, that's 70000, and you'll get added to our SMS alerts list moving forward. You can opt out of the SMSs at any point in time that you want. Now, keep in mind, you can also get added to our email list. Simply go ahead and go to ignitiontime.com/alerts. That's ignitiontime.com/alerts. You can get added to our email list. When you're on our SMS list or our email list, there are two major advantages. One, you'll get breaking news and alerts from us about matters that are important to the country. matters that are important to the economy, and matters that are important to your money. So make sure you get added to our list. Also, you will get important information if we ever release any training programs on how to make money, save money, and invest money. And you can opt out of those SMS alerts or those email alerts at any point in time that you want. No worries about that. Keep in mind that YouTube does not always send out notifications on time. So make sure you simply bookmark youtube.com/ignition time, and then you can visit the home page of our channel and check out our videos at any point in time that you want. You're not dependent on alerts from YouTube because sometimes they get delayed. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. You'll get exclusive news and content on Instagram. Also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is the exact same handle, ignition_time. On Twitter, you'll get breaking news and alerts from us on Twitter. So make sure you do that. I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to comment below. Our community is growing rapidly. It's intelligent, it's respectful, it's bipartisan. You'll probably make some new friends in our community. So make sure you comment below. Also, please share this video with friends and family, because then hopefully we can grow our community with your help. I do need your help to grow our community. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you'll find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. So make sure you check out all of our resources. I really appreciate you watching. Again, don't forget to click like, click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.